Hey everyone, Hunter here from Infinite Catalog, where royalties don't have to be hard. And speaking of royalties, Spotify released their Loud and Clear report again this year, and there's a lot of claims in it. And like last year, I actually did a breakdown of the payouts to see how they're changing over year according to Spotify themselves, to see what that might tell us. And indeed, it does paint us a different picture than what this slide in particular, I think, would have us all believe. The music industry, the greater public at large, etc. So wanted to make a quick video and share the breakdown to just help people understand what's actually going on, in case they want to try to do something about it. And I also want to highlight some ways that folks can do something about it this year as opposed to last year, which was all a little more doom and gloom. So Spotify payouts have increased 10x over the past 10 years. Streaming's rising tide. And then this one, the system we've built together is working. That really raised my smoke signal flags, because who's it working for? How are these payouts? These payouts have increased overall, but how have they increased within the pool itself? Which I think is an equally interesting and valid question if you are interested in a healthy, thriving, vibrant music ecosystem where there's, a lot of people bringing their own perspectives and creating art that can sustain them and be sustainable, and isn't just the playground of people who are born wealthy or can afford to take insane risks. That is being a musician. That has always been the case, but is arguably even more difficult now, as we will show, as the Spotify payouts themselves show, because they do very helpfully include in this report, and did last year. This was the great insight. Click on a dollar amount to see 8 years of Spotify revenue generation data. So we can see these tiers, and gosh, those numbers are going up. That sounds great. But the way that Spotify calculates royalties is a pro rata system, where there's the big pool of royalties, and it gets sliced up within each by each track, really, to the individual artists. And the pie has certainly been growing. There's no question about that, and streaming's been a big part of that. But at the same time, the slices of the pie that are each artist are getting sliced thinner and thinner and thinner every year, which has its own challenges. So all I did last year and again this year was take these numbers. Last year I did 2022 to 2023. This year I did 2023 to 2024. And I plugged them into a spreadsheet and created a royalty pool to just try to understand how they're changing from year over year. Again, these aren't like, I'm just using Spotify's own data that they're giving us to try to see how it's changing year over year, because the pie is certainly increasing. We know that, but how is it? What's changing within the pie? That is what we're trying to get to with this exercise. And it probably won't shock anybody watching this video or follows me on LinkedIn to see, but it is nevertheless very interesting to me to see it in hard numbers of the stream share in particular. Like, we're going to start with this, the rich getting richer, because these numbers going up, this is their change in stream share of the total pool year over year, versus these folks. These are the people who have gone down. These are the people who have gone up. It really shows that the rich are getting richer, not because the pie is necessarily getting bigger, which it is, but also because they are claiming a greater share of it within the pie itself. And I don't want to lay all the blame for that on Spotify necessarily. Twist, shocker. There are a lot of reasons why this could be the case. Most commonly, the psychological phenomenon that when we're presented with an incredible amount of choice, we actually sort of go for the safe thing. And I could see how that might be playing a big factor here. And again, I really try not to moralize or be too judgmental about, or really just give like Daniel Ek or the people who make these decisions too much credit. I don't think that's actually helpful or really the case, or too much of the blame or the guilt. necessarily. I think there's a lot of other things that they could be doing better. But nevertheless, being clear and transparent about these phenomena is, I think, a step in the right direction. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to like shame folks too hard, but anyway, this year also had some new stuff in it, including I broke down the artist per tier growth rate from the year before. Here's last year's numbers, a little less pretty. We gave it a little bit of a facelift this year, and added some new columns regarding the growth rates, since I am now looking at sort of two different data sets, so we can look at it one over the other. And this was very interesting to me, that everybody below the $1 million line, the number of artists in each tier is slowing down. So these numbers, and you can kind of see it in these bars here even, that they're actually slowing down. And to me, that indicates that while there are obviously way more artists on Spotify today than there were in even 2021 or 2018, like that number is wildly bigger. Almost all of them, and again, not major news, but almost all of them will be below this $1,000 a year line from total revenue from Spotify recording and publishing, which of course they don't even make all of. Most artists probably are lucky to see 20 to 30% of that after distribution costs, after the record label takes their cut, the publisher takes their cut, manager, everybody, artists get paid last. That's just how it is. That's not necessarily wrong, but it is how it is. And we are very interested in trying to grow this. Like, I'm personally interested, Infinite Catalog as a business is personally interested in trying to grow this middle section of professional artists, career artists, people who make art for a living, get decent wages for their art, and it's not just feeding content so that billionaires make more billions, or even people making $10 million a year make more than that. I mean, that's fine. I have no problem with making shitloads of money. I just don't want it to come at the expense of other people who are, that's all. Anyway, so yeah, this growth rate is slowing, and to me that indicates that it's harder and harder to, like, the upward mobility isn't there. People are just stuck at the bottom. They're not really moving up the tiers year over year. And we'll talk about this number, and more importantly, this number in just 1 second, because I think these are the least correct numbers in the whole thing. I suspect all of these numbers are higher, and I'll explain why in just 1 second. The last thing I wanted to call out here is this dollars per artist increase, the dollars per artist growth rate year over year, which has also taken a big dive. So every year there's more, the pie is getting bigger, and that's going to the tiers, but the way that it's going to the tiers, it's mostly going up here, or more of it's going up here than is going down here. And that is very relevant and notable, in my opinion. It's not breaking news, but here it is in the data, and that's always helpful. And I also don't believe this number at all. I think this number is incredibly low, because the way that I've done it for the exercise is that, 5 million times 140 artists in the tier equals 700 million for that one tier. But these artists can only make up to, just under 10 million, or they'd be in the 10 million tier. The 10 million tier has no ceiling. It can go as high as it possibly needs to. And I suspect that there is a lot of the money is up here, is above here, and going to these 70 artists, which, good for them. Love that for them. Wish it didn't have to come at the expense of everybody else and everybody else's growth rate, which is what it seems to be showing here. Okay. Big Finish. What can we do about this? I'm a big focus on what you can control guy. So I would suggest diversifying your revenue streams. Don't just point people to Spotify. Don't just rely on streaming. Do things like Bandcamp, downloads, merch, physical sales. Make sure your publishing is correct. Maybe sure you're getting your neighboring rights. Keeping track of this is all very challenging, but that's literally why we built Infinite Catalog, to make it easier for you to do that. I don't want this to turn into a sales pitch, but that is the reality. And relying on Spotify and streaming doesn't seem to be doing us any favors. So thank you for watching. Thank you for following along, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.